Good morning.
Good morning.
Karen. It's
Good
not
morning.
Chris. Good morning, everybody. We know we're going live earlier today. However, we are live simultaneously, got that word out, practiced it, on YouTube and other pages, so you can watch replay later. Karen, you look nothing like Chris. Where's Chris? What have you done?
Yeah, Chris had an appointment this morning, so he's unable to be with us, but you've got me instead.
I got you instead. So it's all good, and it's wonderful. Female energies, because today, everybody, we have an amazing energy. We have Mary Rodwell. And today, Mary's, I've got my alter cue here, guys, as you know, because my brain sometimes doesn't work. Today, Mary will be speaking on the topic of in areas of ET contact, the new generation of children and understanding the spiritual beings. However, I would need a good few hours to go through what this amazing person has done in her life. But briefly, Mary Rodwell is a founder and principal of the Australian Close Encounters Resource Network, ACERN, and co-founder and director of the Dr. Edgar Mitchell Foundation for Research into Extraterrestrial Encounters, in brackets, free. Mary is a former nurse, a midwife, a counsellor, hypnotherapist, Reiki master, international speaker. I'm just going to let Mary come on in a second, because it's just too much. I mean, the value she's contributed to the world that I have lived in, especially, is unmeasurable. Good morning, Cheryl. So on that note, I think the best thing to do, Karen, is get Mary out of the naughty room and welcome her to the UK. Good morning, Mary. Good morning. Good morning, and welcome to the UK.
Good morning, Mary.
Good morning, and it's good evening to me here in Australia. As you can see, it's getting dark outside. We've just passed sunset, but it's an absolute pleasure to speak to you both, and I am really looking forward to sharing a little bit of my work with you both, and of course your audience.
Absolutely, thank you. Don't forget, guys, share the link. We're live simultaneously on YouTube. Get your coffee, sit down and listen, because today is going to be packed full. Mary, I'm just going to start. Where did the ET experience start for you? Just if you could give, for any of our audience that are unaware of, of who you are and what you're involved in, where did it begin, and then sort of bring it up to where we are now with the new human and the topic you're going to speak on today, please.
Well, to encapsulate where it's got me to this point, 25 years down the track, is I have to say that all my life I've been someone who's sought the truth, sought information. So I've been a seeker right from a small child. I've always wanted to know what was going on, and brought up within a Christian belief system. But I saw a lot of things that didn't quite fit for me or resonate for me, and I didn't know what that meant at the time. So I suppose my spiritual journey has always been there. It's just that as I've learned things, I've learned to question, because not everything fitted for me. What brought me into the extraterrestrial realm in a very real way, although I'd never really dismissed the possibility that we were being visited by different intelligences, I'd never really gone into it until a gentleman walked through the door and said to me, Mary, there are no support groups for this. For this, they just think you're crazy. Mm-hmm. And he said, I've heard you're open-minded, but I've had experiences with beings that have taken me up on spacecraft, left shaved areas, marks on my body. It's not just happening to me, it's happening to my partner and the children. And he said, can you help? Well, interestingly, as you know about synchronicities, I'd read a couple of books, one of them by Dr. John Mack, who was a former professor of psychiatry at Harvard University, who had written a book, Abduction, Human Encounters with Aliens, and he'd done all the psychological testing, came to the conclusion this was real. And also I'd read the book Communion by Whitley Strieber, which everyone who's had experiences recognize the face. So I've read those books. But what people don't know, and I'm sort of coming out the closet, you know how you said, Gloria, to me prior to this, that you were quite open to spirits and obviously angels and fairies and probably everything else as a medium and clairvoyant. Going to the next step, which is our ET's part of this, or these intelligences, was a big, hold on a minute, that's a little bit too far down the rabbit hole for me. Well, the truth of it was, for me, it was the fact that I had been also in a group where I was learning to open up multidimensionally. And we would regularly have intelligences come in that weren't the angelic realm or might be ETs and what have you. And one of my guides, actually, I call the Space Lady because she's very dignified and makes me sit up straight. So I got into it through opening up multidimensionally myself and connecting. And I didn't have, I found with a lot of spiritual groups, because of the way that we've always seen it, it's been angelic realm, ascended masters, Jesus and Mary, or religious ones, or fairies, or elementals, and all of that. And I remember many spiritualists coming to me and saying, but Mary, I don't see any of them. I see little blue guys with black eyes. I see a mantis being that's 7 foot high, or I'm seeing a lion being or a feline. I'm not seeing, the angels and the fairies. But I can't mention it because in my group, they don't want to hear about it. No, you can't go there. So it was this interesting dilemma where very open to a point, but that next step into non-human intelligences for many almost felt unspiritual or not spiritual. And yet it's all in the same package, which is what I do. It's all in the same, because where one person may see an angel, someone else will interpret that as a light being.
Correct.
It can very well be the same. It's just that our programming, our belief system will only allow us to interpret it the way that we feel comfortable. Whereas now, more and more people are connecting the dots and saying, oh my goodness, maybe that spirit guide of mine that I saw isn't really what form, the form I saw is not actually the truth of what they are. And when I've connected people to their guides, it may be, oh, I am seeing something that's blue with big black eyes. Can that be a spirit guide? And so, yes, of course it can. It's just the form they're getting you used to the fact we're in a cosmos of multidimensional intelligences. Some of them are physical, some of them are interdimensional.
Oh, we've frozen slightly.
Some are ultra-dimensional, and there's some are future. So we have all of that going on, and what they're presenting to us is what we're ready for, or we can start to deal with, because it takes us a while to get used to the fact that we're not alone. And some of these beings are very physical, but some of them are not. They will come in as light or as an orb of light. And I've talked about how many people have had interactions with a ball of light, which is, a light being that has no form and is interdimensional. And there are many that have interacted with those. And many of the new kids coming in actually have talk about the light beings they're being visited by. And, one little 10-year-old explained to me that he's visited by light beings. He comes from a planet of light where they manifest instantly. And he said coming to planet Earth has been quite difficult because it sort of takes longer to manifest here. It's a bit slower. So, he found it quite interesting to note. But this is my point, is that we're being now, and Gloria, you're talking about reaching a point where you're ready to acknowledge that greater reality. It's timing. It's it's all about timing. It's all about when we're ready. And for me, meeting Ellis Taylor, his name, he lives in England now, he's an author. Meeting Ellis was making it very real for me, because up to then I was connecting to these intelligences, but it was different to someone coming to me and saying that I know they take me up on the craft. There's, they're taking my family, as well, and making it to a point where, how do you support someone who is having that very real interaction? The whole family is being involved with it. And the problem is that a lot of the relatives won't come to the house because they think it's demons.
Yes. I mean, going on a personal experience, obviously it was bad enough that I saw dead people as a child, and hence being diagnosed with schizophrenia and all that. It was just not in anyone's reality. You certainly learned to shut down and pull back, and it did cause trauma and confusion. And like yourself, I found with children, because this topic today, and I know with Karen as well about the children, my career has been working around children. And I've noticed over the years, which resonates with what just the case you gave there, of children drawing me pictures. There's issues in families, because I worked in child protection, and behavioural problems. And these children's 5 up to teenagers, I worked with youth, were drawing things that were ET related. It was scientific related, and they're saying no one believes me. So I've also, through the decades of my own journey, have experienced that, and it really is not until now as if it's like someone's turned everyone online. The reality shifted, and it's okay.
Yeah.
That's all gone. And I think in your case, I would like to ask you, I mean, you're a trailblazer in this specific field, especially working with children. Have you noticed, since you started working with children to now, have you noticed a shift in them at all? I, as an adult, and others in the experiencer group, are feeling this shift. It's okay now. We've always known this. We know who we are. Yes, we are Arcturians. Have you found that with children?
It's a good question, Gloria, and it's interesting that you've worked with the children. Yeah. What highlighted the children to me initially, when I wrote Awakening, it was like I was dealing with the adults who would come to me talking about their children being maybe frightened, saying they're being taken places, or not frightened and actually quite cool with it, but saying, what can I do about it? But what highlighted it to me was how these children are so much more awake. They are already activated. And so for them, the problem is planet Earth and its density, and managing the fact that people don't get, well, why aren't you seeing orbs? Why aren't you seeing energy fields? And can't you see colors coming out someone's mouth when they're talking emotionally and what have you? What do you mean you can't see what I'm seeing? There's my special friend. He takes me at night, and we go and learn complex things and whatever. Their issue is that they're in a reality where the adult population, unless the parent or one or both of the parents is awake and listening, they feel isolated and they shut down because, they realize that others are not seeing what they're seeing. And then they shut down. And that is difficult then because they're not sure what's real and what's not real. Like you would have felt.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I've also found, and I think, Karen, you're aware of this. Karen, I've met one of Karen's children, Alfie, and when I said, let's create a show, I thought the first thing I wanted was a child perspective of spirituality of seeing dead people, as we call them. We'll stay with that terminology. And I remember speaking to Karen's son, Alfie, before the show, and I said, what would you like? I was aware that even the labels were changing, the beliefs were dropping. And I said to Alfie, what would you like to be called? And he said, I'm not a medium, I'm a communicator. And that was like, so here I am, wasn't it, Karen?
Yeah.
I mean, Karen, you would have seen what Mary's talking about in your children as well, would you not?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think as Mary was saying before, I think the perception of what it is has changed over the years. And I find now that with the awakening and everything, that children are a lot more accepting of whatever is going on around them. They don't seem to have these limitations that we seem to have put upon ourselves, really, as a human race over the years. And I do feel that that's dropping a lot now, and children are being born awake, if that's the term we want to use. Mm-hmm. So yeah, and it was interesting because obviously with my children, they know, you know, that me and Dad talk to dead people. That's what they actually say to the people. They say, "What do your mum and dad do? They talk to dead people," and it's not even something that they would cringe at, or you know, like you were saying before, how you to say that you speak to spirit, or you know, it used to be something that people go, oh, but now they go, oh, instead.
Exactly.
And I feel that that's very much the way we are at the moment and where we're going. I do feel that, yeah.
And we did, Mary. Sorry, go on. I was going to ask you, but go on. Do go on.
I was going to say that some of that shift is within the scientific community, simply because they're looking at this more from a consciousness perspective, where you've got people talking about their near-death experiences, or their out-of-body experiences, or remote viewing now. All of these things are becoming popularized and being more accepted. And so science is saying, oh, maybe we need to explore what is consciousness, because plainly we're not just this physical container.
No.
And, you know, we're talking about going out of body and having experiences and going to other realms, etc., etc. So that's come in along with the fact that more and more people, and the sad thing for me is I meet so many of the older generations that have spent their lives hiding from that themselves.
Me.
And I'm just thinking,
I'm an example.
Sad. You know, you've not.
Would you say, Mary? I mean, it's just my truth, my perspective here. I feel like the generation coming through, let's say in the last 20 years, 25 years, it was like I have this like a wave of changing our history. We, the older ones, we were conditioned with a history. You are human, you are this, you are limited, you are, and we had no idea that, a few did, that we were connected. We were interdimensional beings wearing the suit of and experiencing the human. But over the past 25 years, these children, and I have a son who's ADHD, who's an experiencer. And my other children, I've allowed the experiences, because even though I wasn't out there, it's okay. I can worry about it. It's, you know, so I feel like these children, am I correct in this discernment, are the new wave to change our history, to rewrite our ancestry, that we're not what we thought we were. Did that come across? Does that make sense to you?
Gloria, it does. And why I wrote The New Human was because of these new children coming in, particularly from 2000. Most of them already have what we call more activated DNA. And what I mean by that is we have what the geneticists called dormant DNA. And what that really is not dormant. It's just the inserts from various extraterrestrial ancestors that created Homo sapiens sapiens. And what's happening is they're coming in with activated DNA connected to their star ancestry. So they may say, I'm a hybrid. They may say, or I'm from Arcturus or Andromeda or Sirius, because that part of their DNA has been activated. I speak, let me give you an example. A little boy I spoke to just a few months ago said that he'd come from a planet where he was blue. He was a blue being. He said this is his very first incarnation here on this planet. So he picked a mum who'd been here many times because she could help him get used to being here. He was a center seed connecting to the center of the planet. He's here to help with the pollution on this planet. That's part of his mandate. He can see interdimensionally with his eyes open, for example. Explained all his abilities and what have you. This is what I mean about these new ones coming in. And the reason we've been able to identify them, and this was the one that I know is controversial, is because metaphysicians always said, oh, these new waves of children, indigos, crystals, children of light, all these different names. These children also in mainstream are given a diagnosis that they're dysfunctional, such as ADHD, Asperger's, dyslexia, forms of autism. And my query when I was trying to work this out and saying, well, how is it that we're getting these children being given these so-called labels? Because I see that this was intergenerational. So that if the parents had an experience, usually you found one or both grandparents going down the family line to the children. So why are the children having these dysfunctions unless they're not dysfunctions, but an upgrade of humanity? And the interesting thing is, what do we do with ADHD because they are operating at a faster speed? We slow them down with Ritalin so we can program them into dear old 3D, which is an inaccurate and absolutely false reality, because it's only honoring the five senses. It's not honoring any other senses that dimensional sense. So we're trying to program them back into the old model.
Absolutely. I mean, it so resonates with me. My son was diagnosed at the age of 5, and they spoke about medications, but me being me, having an awareness, I said no. And I worked on cognitively with him, no. And he's now 23, I think, something like that. And I said, no, you're not doing that. No, because I knew, somehow knew, I knew. And sadly, there are cases where these children and the side effects of this. But however, I mean, when my son was diagnosed, he's 23, so he's 5 at the time. I had this, like, everyone was coming to me because I worked with families, family services. Oh, my son's been diagnosed with ADHD, and I've got ASD, and it was a wave. And I go, what's going on? It's like a wave of all these children coming in, and they've found a label because they don't know because they were rebelling. They didn't like especially the educational system. I mean, I don't know about you, Karen, but my children did not like the education system. They didn't like conformity. They would express themselves. And of course, what does society and the system do? It will shut you down till you fall back. I do relate to that, and I know many, many parents. I'd never heard of ADHD until my son at 5. Never heard of it. Then every family I worked with, a child was diagnosed with one or the other. So I think if you need validation, there's your validation there. Mary, I've got to, there's so many questions, but I'm going to put you on the spot because I'm so interested. I know Karen is too. We're now 2021.
Yeah.
We briefly touched on this, and I recommend anyone wants to know more about this, please, if you go onto YouTube, Mary's everywhere. Her books, her websites, we'll put them all up later. Where have the children told you, or where as to where are we now? Everyone's asking. We know we're awakening. We're all coming online. We're realizing we're not who we thought we were. We're there. Okay. And the adults as well, the experiences. That's another thing. I feel like there's a wave now of experiences coming out. Yeah. Connecting with other experiences. Have the children, your most recent research, said anything about what's coming or what's going on with the awakening now? Where are we? We're all basically aware there's an awakening. However, there's not too much information as to where are we in this and where should we go from here, if you have anything on that, especially the children.
Well, over the last few years, adults and children have come up with an understanding that we are reaching a crossroads in human consciousness, and that's been very obvious ever since, you know, the 2012, where lots of people activated and woke up literally almost overnight. When I spoke about the young boy that said he came from a planet of light, I asked him what he understood of what was going on last year, and he said, Mary, this is the reset, was the way he put it. And this isn't a negative thing. This is the spiritual reset that's going on. But many of the children, I also mentioned it a bit from those, you know, in the New Human, talking about a new earth, a new and what one of the 16-year-olds mentioned was that this new earth is already there waiting for us, almost like it's just in a different frequency. So it's like when we reach that frequency, that's when we will be in that new reality. One of the things that Dr. Olson, who I mention a lot, who's a molecular biologist who communicates with many of these beings, she said that she was shown that we're separating out into two frequencies, low frequency people and high frequency people. And that obviously the soul makes the choice in this lifetime whether to stay in 3D or to move to another level of awareness. And that is, you can see the polarity already in what's going on the planet right now. It's obvious. You know, there's these and there's these, and never the twain are going to meet.
Tell me, no. I mean, I asked that because I remember years ago being slightly mature, as I am. I remember listening to Dolores Canning, and at that point, ET wasn't in my reality. I just saw dead people. I had paranormal experiences. I was off in the stars. I was learning, you know, astrophysics, and I just thought, oh, I'm learning. And it wasn't until the experience of Christmas where go back. And then as soon as I heard her, something switched again. And I went, oh my God, I remember the two earths, the shift. And I went, I'm on a radio show. I've shifted. And when your awareness, when you have a knowing that the expansion comes, you're like, wow. And it just all comes into place. And I'm thinking, I was just wondering, is it for the adult, the mature people, the experiences, which I like what Dolores said, the first wave, you know, the volunteers come in. I like that, you know, I do like that. But the children today who have been born with this, I was wondering what is coming through them. I know what's coming through me. And in the experiences group that I run and the remote viewing group as well, I mean, I'll give you an example. I did the first remote viewing group, just basic to get them into remote viewing yesterday with 10 beings who'd never done it, 100% accurate, each one of them in the ideogram. Yeah. Okay, how did they do that? How did they do that? So this is why I'm saying, I'm seeing it in the adult and in the groups. I'm wondering, what are the children? Are they, as the experiences are coming together now, are the children coming together?
It's interesting, Gloria, because I'm being contacted not just by educators and clinical psychologists, for those that want to know, many of those that are starseeds, but the parents, and it's about connecting the parents and also connecting the kids. And so I've even got a group not so far from where I live, where there's various parents and grandparents, and the children are getting, because they want to meet others like them.
Yes.
Because they feel very different at school. They don't feel they can talk safely to other kids because kids don't get it. They don't understand. How do you explain to other kids that you talk to animals and communicate with animals, or that you talk to plants and communicate with plants, or you talk to meteorites and crystals and whatever? You know, you can't do this at the normal school, can you? But
no.
It's I talk to have done all of that, and also know the planet they came from, or the other life they had with Granny, you know, on a water world or something. Do you remember that, Granny, when we were on that water world together? This is, so how do you put that into, the context of a 3D reality where, you know, that, again, it's still very much about, unless you can see it, touch it, feel it, and hear it, it ain't real. It's still very much that. My issue is modern psychology has to change into this model of consciousness, because otherwise we're still medicating people. We're still sticking them in hospital because of their multidimensional. There's star seeds that are probably in hospitals all over the globe because they don't understand what's going on. They think they must be crazy because obviously the doctor said they are. And they, you know, this is what has to change. The whole model. And the only way we're going to do that is more and more people like yourself, Gloria, coming out the space closet and saying, this is my reality. Do what's right. Get over it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's amazing. And I also found, since the recent one at Christmas, when all of this shifted, I have just connected with like Karen and her husband Chris and her children and the groups. It's like you don't, once it happens and you think, why was I scared before? What was that fear? And then you start, oh, that was a belief system. That was, you know, and you get this, you feel like, and I used to say to the children when I worked with them, do you have a feeling like you're hidden, like you're some sort of Superman? And they go, yeah. And I said, yeah, I do. And I used to say, I'm sure I was adopted by somebody. I'm really sure. And the children were saying this, you know, and then all of these questions through this as I call it the evolution of consciousness to now. And then I bump into someone like Sharon, I keep saying Sharon, I've got a spirit friend that's hanging around at the moment. Karen, who was going to be called Sharon. And Karen is with animals. And Karen sees dimensional beings that are angels. So I've got to ask, is there a possibility, Mary, do you think, that they're just appearing to her as angels? Just curious.
That's interesting that you've asked that, because that is one of the questions that I was going to ask Mary, actually.
Sorry.
I was going to ask you, actually, when we talk about the different entities, for what my perception would be angelic or light beings, the fairies, elementals, everything. Do you feel that they are ultimately the same entity, but they need to show themselves in a way that we can understand? Or do you feel that they are separate entities?
It's a good question, because sometimes if your guide, or, you know, your spirit guide, or whatever you want to call those wonderful intelligences that support us from the non-physical realm, they will often give you a form that you feel comfortable with. For example, you know, many see Jesus and Mary and the Christ consciousness because they feel that's got integrity, that's something they can trust and what have you. A lot depends on where you're at in your belief system will be how they will work with that until you're ready to see. You know, some will show you a form that feels comfortable, but later will say, well, actually, this is what I really look like. And it might be a mantis being, or, you know, or a, you know, a lion being or whatever, but they will show you really something within your framework that you feel safe with, or you feel comfortable, you can trust, because they can really show you anything. When you bring in your clairvoyance, you know, they can show you what they think is going to be acceptable. And sometimes they'll tease you and they'll show you something that will be really ridiculous. And you're like, hold on a minute, do you really look like that? No. Want to see what I really look like? I'll show you. So it's all about us getting ready to accept the non-physical reality, the fact that we can communicate telepathically with them, that we can start to allow the downloads and the information coming in. The more we are accepting and at peace with that, the greater then we get to the point where we're communicating on that level with them in a way that we've been incarnated to do, which is they're getting us ready to join the galactic community. And we've got to get over our fears and our limited understanding of what we think reality is, and realize that we're galactic beings too. You know, we've all incarnated from all over the cosmos, from not just this universe, but other universes. When you get a 10-year-old I came from another dimension through a portal in the suns. This is a 10-year-old explaining his understanding of the dimensions. I've got others that talk about coming from other dimensions, where I get a 7 or 8-year-old explaining he can go to other dimensions and other planets as long as he knows their mathematical number, their frequency, and he goes through the runes as a portal. So he uses the rune as a portal, knows their frequency, and he can go to a particular planet. Now, this is a 7 or 8-year-old explaining to me how he did it. You know, This is what I, you know.
Well, it's still wow for me. Yeah, it's still wow.
It's interesting as well because, like I was saying, I do work a lot with the angels, and I try and do workshops as well, just to make people aware and what have you. And it was interesting because my nana, who's in her 80s now, she's very religious, Christian, Catholic, and somebody made a comment that she happened to see that I was talking to angels, and her comment on that was, I always talk to the angels every night before I go to bed, and I thank them for the day. And when I wake up in the morning, I ask them to look after me, which is absolutely so similar to what I'm doing, whereas hers is from a different perspective, because she has that belief that they are these winged angelic humanoid creatures that live in the spirit in heaven, but yet it's still the same thing.
Yeah, it is.
So and that really sort of fascinated me, that because my nan is quite limited in her belief, if you like, if we want to put it like that. However, ultimately, it's exactly the same.
It is.
And it's a generational thing, but it is exactly the same. Believing in something that you can't see, or that you don't feel you can see. Yeah.
Absolutely. And this is what, you know, many of them in the spiritualist churches, the metaphysical fraternity, many of them are fine, as I say, with angels and fairies and elementals and spirit guides, all the rest of it. But for goodness sake, don't mean a feline being or a crystalline being or a blue being with black eyes or a mantis being or an ant being or whatever.
Yeah.
But what's the difference?
Off the back of that discussion, to keep that going, what also I'm excited to, I mean, I'm sure everyone knows this, but it's just in my realities since Christmas and starting the groups, light codes, light language. Now, Karen's husband is normally the co-host. He was seeing these symbols and had no idea, and I'm sure Karen has as well, many. Yeah. They were seeing it, and I remember writing and doodling. And anyway, long story short, we had a guest on the show a few weeks ago, D Light Codes, who does the light codes, the language, and you just resonate with it. Went in when I started the group. These are like mediums, yeah, all different ages. And I asked, but before that, someone said, Gloria, I'm getting symbols. I'm going, oh my God, they don't know what they were, light codes. So I put the word out there. Is anyone getting, you would not, all this light code language is coming down. People are seeing it in carpets, in walls. And as, what is amazing, I'm, for one instant, I go, why are they getting this? And I've been on this earth and done this journey for so long. And I went, do you remember? Oh my God, I had them too, way back, but it had just been put to, I'm seeing now physical, it's coming into the physical, like the blending, they're writing, and they say to me, what does it mean? I said, you don't need to know what it means, it's vibrational. It's just keep going, allow it to come. So have you heard of this light language and symbols? I mean, as you know, I'm an artist, so I paint the greys, the Arcturians. My most recent code is hieroglyphs from Egypt, non-stop hieroglyphs from Egypt. So do you know what's happening around this light language and this light code now, and why it's coming in at this moment?
It's a good question. I think before most researchers, I was fascinated by the fact that many of the experiences were bringing in symbols, they were bringing in different artwork, like you've been drawing the beings.
Yeah.
They were actually bringing in the different light languages, universal languages or whatever. They were bringing in certain music frequencies as well as with their artwork. And I was saying to people, if anything is proof that this is real, it's the fact that these experiences, people manifest all this amazing phenomena. This doesn't get manifested from a fantasy or imagination as it's coming through. And the thing is, many healers, when they start connecting to the different intelligences, they start to bring in the star languages. And they would say that the different frequencies of the language would be appropriate to that physical body or that particular person they were healing, that origin may be Arcturus or whatever. So some of the light language can be translatable. Some of it is like packets of information that are waiting for us when we need it. When we get upgraded, I believe that's when it will be useful. So go on.
Go on. No, you go on. Sorry, it's a delay.
What's so vital about this is that this is showing the activation of humanity into our next state. The fact that we're downloading this, bringing it in, we're raising the frequencies through crop circles, going to sacred sites, all of these as well. As children bringing in the frequencies, the new kids coming in, they're bringing in frequencies as well. So we've got it coming from all angles to help
everywhere.
Shift.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's so exciting because you open a Zoom room and you bring everyone in that physically have never met because we've all been locked up. So we go into the Zoom, and no one's dared tell anyone anything else. They don't know each other. They have nothing to do with each other. Totally different lifestyles, different societies, and then you open up experiences. Anyone experience, and they're all coming in with the same. To me, you just need a bit of discernment. That's the truth. You can't even taboo it. You can't, because that could not happen. It's the truth. And when the skeptic comes to me and tries to, because it's affecting their belief system, their conditioned reality, I said, well, that's your reality, not mine. However, at one point, we humans thought the earth was flat. And how can you explain that, our ancestors, the true history of who we are, knew about certain planets before our scientists knew about the planet, and they go away and they either use a bit of discernment and go, or they go and like this. So for me, and it validates my truth, Mary, to be honest, when I'm in the groups and they're going, I'm going, oh my God. And then the beings then say, see, remember, then remember. And so I sit here now hungry. I'm hungry, I got to say, because I've seen things and know things. I don't know how I know them. And I'm waiting for someone to talk about them because I know it will activate that as well. So, I mean, even though this is about children, we spoke on children. However, every human being is part of this. We're all collectively, whether you like it or not, it's a bit late. We've all agreed and we're all waking up now. Do you have any advice, Mary, what what we can do, anyone that's interested in the topic we spoke about today, do you have any advice what they should do, where they should go or read or listen to? Because we have perks, we've got them, they're listening.
Well, I'll say this, that if you're listening to this program, then you're on track for a start, because you wouldn't be listening to this unless you were ready to hear it. So that's the first thing. The intent to raise your frequency and become more aware in itself is a frequency that will draw what you need to you. And, when people come to me, and I've had many come and say, Mary, I know I've got a mission, I've got something to do, and I want to know I'm doing everything I can do to be on my mission and all the rest of it. And my answer to them is, do you think that your soul is going to let you miss the bus? No.
Oh, we're going to have to plagiarize that one. We're going to plagiarize that one, Karen. In all the groups, we're going to plagiarize. Don't sue us, Mary. Do you think your soul's good? I like that. We're plagiarizing you there. Souls. I like that. Says it as it is, isn't it?
Exactly.
Exactly.
You've come in with a mission to be part of this. There is no way in the world you're going to miss it, because they'll put you against the wall and slap you if necessary till you get it. But just be at peace.
Exactly. I mean, I tried to resonate with others. You wouldn't be here experiencing this if you weren't supposed to be here experiencing this. This is it. I've always seen it as this. I can't explain it. This is it. This is it. I'm here and I've come here to do this, and this is it. To experience consciousness expanding and evolving. And you experience, well, I've lived 60 odd years, 2 years. Oh, I gave my age away, God damn it. 62 years of believing I was a human being, and the suffering and all these nasty things happened to me. However, I will preempt that. I've never had a negative experience with an ET, ever. I don't know what other people have. It must be belief systems that are overshadowing. However, I'm still scared of clowns. I've got to say that for some reason. And now I look back and go, it's freedom. It's a freedom that, oh my God, I'm more. And I think a lot of, don't you, Karen, a lot of people are realizing that, you know what, I'm a bit unlimited here. There's more to me than what they told me, and they don't want me to know. There is, there's so many questions, but this one is really critical, and it's very personal, guys. So sorry, audience. Are you aware? I am aware. So I was born in 1958, London. So it's like the 60s. Are you aware? I don't know how to word this without the men in black knocking on my door. I remember going into institutions, having wires on my head. I've shared this with my children, and being asked to perform telekinesis, psychometry, and I remember clairvoyance, but and it was like, were there computers then? Hello, because I've got so much time lost, it's very hard. But I also remember a being with me saying, fail the test, fail it. And I had to lie and go, I got the wrong one. It wasn't until about 10 years ago I started hearing other people, my age group at that time, in that area, having memories of this. Have you heard about intervention from other than dimensional beings on the children? Well, I was then. That was, you would call an abductee. I was an experiencer. Are you aware of that? Or am I mad?
You're not mad, Gloria. What you are saying and what you're indicating is more like the MyLab experience, and that's the military abduction, where they'll go underground, and they, with a lot of the new awake humans, they are there because they pick you up because of your energy signature, and they know that you're having interactions, and they want to know what you do when you're on board craft. They want to know your abilities, etc., etc. The MyLab is a really big component of this, and there are many people that have had not only extraterrestrial experiences but MyLab experiences, and these are human interactions underground in base.
These were humans, because the entity with me, and I must have been 10ish, around about 10ish, was saying fail. And I had wires. I remember telling them, did anyone remember? And I got older siblings, and I remember speaking to the eldest sibling in her 70s now, and I was talking about, do you remember? And she said, no, I don't remember that. So I do remember, though, when you were a toddler going around doing telepathy, we were all doing it. I went, you what? I have no memory. So bits were coming in, but this got stronger. I felt I could resonate with something different, like I was being tested. And it wasn't until about 10 years ago I was hearing other stories, and it's if I know now it wasn't the right time, but now's the time to ask. I'd never heard of this MyLab, what's it called?
It's MyLab. It's MyLab. It's military abductions. There's a group, if you like, part of the dark agenda is that there are military groups that abduct people that have had experiences, take them underground, and children. I've written about it in The New Human. There's a 9-year-old explained how he remembers being taken underground, sitting in a seat where there was technology to one side and a human person.
And a human, yes. But I don't have much. It's the same with the experiences. I've got a lot of amnesia, about 10 years of it, actually. It's gone. And it's always the beginning of any experience, but never the rest of it. And never the rest. But something is so strong. And I thought, well, you're here, and it just come into my consciousness, ask. So I will have to maybe look at that. And if anyone out there has had similar experiences to me, and I got the impression, it's coming, I've got to say, does whoever they are, the MyLabs, do they know? Because I felt like at the time when I bumped into other people, heard about them, there was a wave of children born in the late 50s, 60s, and like they knew about these children. Could that be possible? Is that possible? I'm not mad.
You're not mad.
Because I knew there was more with me when this happened. I knew, and we were all about, and it really got me is when they said, fail it, because something wrong would happen. Later on, they did try to, I got diagnosed schizophrenia. They did try all that, medication, everything. So, okay, so this may resonate. Anyone in the audience, or if you're going to watch this on a replay, if you have this experience, it's another realm I'm going to have to go and go into. But I mean, is that not conspiracy theory? I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but is that not conspiracy theory?
It's not a theory. It's a fact. I have worked with many that have had these experiences, and there's a book by Niara Isley that I wrote the foreword for, and she had profound experiences with the military where she was interrogated, drugged, and what have you. because of what her experience is. And it was facing the shadow, embracing the light. And she had no idea until she did body work. All the memories started coming back. And she thought she was great.
Wow.
So a lot more common than people realize. I have met many, many people that have had these experiences. And the whole point is that these covert military groups have wanted to know what happens on the craft, what are the ET agendas. And because you get taken on the craft, you get taught things on the craft, you get shown things on the craft, they want to know what happened, where you're at in terms of your abilities, because they want to use them for their agendas. And this takes you into the super soldier stuff. It takes you into all that. That is not conspiracy. This is a reality. And I will just say to people, look into it, because there's a huge amount of information about people whose abilities were used by these military groups as kind of super soldiers, psychic super soldiers.
Yeah, I can so relate to that. I mean, I can. And as I said, I shut it down because they told me to, for a reason. But I did pick up it was a wave, and I kept thinking, I'm sure I'm right. How did they know? And there are conspiracy theories that are way out there, and I use discernment. If it doesn't resonate, I pull back. But I did that with Dolores Cannon. I'm more likely wrong. Way back in the day, I said, no, that doesn't resonate with me. I see dead people, not realizing everything else. And then all of a sudden it resonated at the right time and the right place. Karen, I've asked more questions to you. I'm so sorry. It's personal.
No, it's fine. I was just interested to know, I mean, obviously, because we are now a lot more of a TV nation and an internet nation and everything, I find it really interesting that the concepts for certain films and things like that are sort of what we're talking about now. So do you feel that is that sort of, whether the writers of those are aware and have been told to do this, or is it more of a subconscious thing, or is it a thing at all? Because these kind of things are being brought, even though it seemed to be in a fantasy world. I mean, a lot of people, just looking at Harry Potter as an example, a lot of, I hasten to use the word normal people, now believe in magic or the possibility. So do you feel that there's a little bit of a link between the writers of these programs, dramas, movies, are they getting that from the ETs, do you think?
I think they're getting it not just from the ETs, but they're getting it from certain sections of the governments that want people to know, or at least desensitize them to the reality that we are being treated. And a lot of them, from Stargate, the film Stargate, right through to the Mars stuff, to a lot of the other, there's so many movies now that are giving you hints about the truth of what's actually going on the planet now. And it's all orchestrated. This is all part of getting people desensitized to the new reality, if you like, which is that we are part of a galactic community of intelligence. And, there are the children that will tell you that there are beings under the surface of the moon, that the moon is hollow. And they've done testing and actually sent to the moon certain rockets and heard the sounds like of that it is hollow, for example. It's all there. You go into some of the disclosures and what have you. The children, I mean, one ADHD child said that he'd been in a previous lifetime, they'd left something on the moon that's going to affect consciousness, and he remembers leaving it in his past life. And he said, and we're very close now to a complete change in consciousness on this planet. So that's just the moon, and there are, we've seen the footage. I'm sure people have seen footage of glowing objects and all the rest of it. We've had some astronauts talk about when they landed on the moon, there were craft watching them, for example. I mean, it's there. Whether, you know, there are a lot of people that want to put everything into the conspiracy theory, but a lot of this stuff is not a theory. It is actually a conspiracy, but it's fact.
It's fact. It's fact. I mean, yeah, I've always, it's like, it's funny how you keep mentioning the moon, and I had an experience way back with the moon, but that's not what I'm going to talk about. And I remember way back in the day, and I was sort of doing the remote viewing. I was a natural. I was told to sort of like control it slightly because I was going off, you know. And he was given a target, and he went to the moon, and he saw beings there you don't want to see, and he shot back. He just shot back, and I've actually experienced that in another location, and it resonated, but also his fear resonated with the fear that I experienced when I went somewhere. It was spontaneous. I didn't mean, it was a natural, you know. And so the only thing that I find when I said about all this other stuff that I'm, you know, for the first time, family may be hearing that, hey ho, here we go, all disown me, it's fine, I'm happy, I'm speaking to the amazing Mary Rodwell here, is when what has always bugged me was about this government thing. I knew it was, and I said, come on, who are you to, you know, and that's always bugged me. So that's why I thought, am I being a bit of a conspiracy theory? You know, so that's a belief system. It's still hanging on me here, which is now gone, basically. So I was there. I did experience that. So it's not, but that helps me to understand other beings that are coming forward and saying, oh, no, and it helps me understand when people judge my experience. So I can't judge them back because I now understand it was my beliefs, my conditioning, what I was told, and that's all that is with them. So, and I think that in itself would allow consciousness to awaken more because you're going to resonate that energy back. It's okay. You don't have to believe. You go your reality. You know, well, the way I am at the moment, there's two earths, and I've just gone to the other one. And I think I heard Dolores say, so you're there already. And I'm going, yes, I'm like this. You know, yes, I will, you know, and then I may be the only crazy one in the block at the moment, but however, Karen's with me, so otherwise she wouldn't be in the room. Where do you think we're going now, Mary, from this point? I mean, at the moment, we're time traveling. Come on, we're all time traveling here. Where are we going now? What do you think?
What do you mean in terms of the shift in consciousness?
What do you think we're going to see next to amaze us?
All I can say is, if the potential of these new children, new generations of children come in, as they have been doing, with the abilities that they have, we are going to all be part of that. Of course, the older models are going to be activated as well. What seems to be going on is, as we all get activated, we are activating all our potential of all our connections to the star origins that we come from. Or at least, they reckon, at least 12 different species of star being in our DNA. So we will gradually activate those abilities and that awareness. To give you an example, have you seen the film Lucy? I don't know if you've seen the film Lucy.
Yes, I have. Yes. Oh my God, did I resonate with that? Oh my, yes.
Okay. Right. Well, that's the clue. The clue.
Oh, wow.
I believe we will I'm
going back and I'm going to watch it again because I have seen it and it got me.
There you are. Activating more of our DNA, more and more of our light body, more and more of our awareness, so we become truly galactic. That is where.
Thank you. No one could encapsulate any better than that. That just did it because I have seen the film, and I recommend to our audience.
I haven't seen it, so that's going to be on my list.
I mean, we've gone into overtime. We don't mind at all. We're thinking of you.
I haven't even noticed.
I didn't even notice. I looked down and went, oh my God, we've gone past our time because obviously we're just with you. Obviously we can hang on as long as you can. Is there anything in your work and your research now that you would like to share out from your perspective, us not asking questions, with us, or or tell us about what you're doing next. So is there anything you'd like to share with us, and what you'd like us maybe to look at, like the film Lucy, so to speak? Is there anything else?
What I've got several conferences that I'm doing online this year, and I'm doing one for Contact in the Desert. I've done one for the actually Dolores's group, Ozark. I've just done one there. What I'm doing with Contact in the Desert, and I'm doing another one on hybrids as well, is I am playing a lot of the frequencies. I am showing some of the artwork. I'm playing some of the frequencies, the star languages and what have you, some of the music, etc. So some of the, all of the presentations are activated. And I'm doing that deliberately, because I know that when you're ready, that is activating more of your awareness, what have you. So I will be doing that in Contact in the Desert. I'm doing it in all of my presentations online. I'm making sure that I am putting in those frequencies as well. So if you want, if you're ready, I often made a statement when I have done conferences and said, right, if you are in here, I'm telling you now that if you don't want to be shifted or changed from this moment, no responsibility for that. So go out leave now, because I'm taking no responsibility for what might happen after my my presentation.
Absolutely. The disclaimer must go out. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. And all of this is frequency. What we're talking about now is the frequency. People will shift from the conversation, from what we've been talking about.
Absolutely.
So, so all I say is, the presentations are out there. I'm putting them out there. Keep listening to what you feel drawn to be listening to, because that is your soul guiding you to your part in all of this. And that's all I can say.
So how can people access that? Is this via do you have a website, and how can people access that?
My presentations I usually put links on Facebook, my Facebook page, but anyone who wants, the recent, I'm doing 1, 2, or 3 interviews sometimes a week. All of that, has got frequencies in it. I'm also doing, the visual stuff with the online presentations as well. All of that is all there, and my previous presentations have them as well.
Yeah.
All my, the ones I've done. Go onto YouTube. You'll see a whole list of things.
I recommend
Chris will be able to put all those links on our page for people as well. So.
Yeah, Chris will do that on the page. But I recommend YouTube. You can get past presentation, conferences, be prepared to shift, because you will shift when Mary speaks. And she presents the evidence in such a way, you're just like, oh yeah, okay, I know that. It just works. It's the same when I watched Dolores the other day, and I went, yeah, I know that. And I go, oh my God, I never used to believe that. Oh my God. And you start to see it. So I do recommend you watch, go onto YouTube. Your books, are they on Amazon, Mary? You've got, how many books do you have now?
I've got 2, Awakening and The New Human. You can get The New Human from the Nexus magazine in the UK. You can get directly from them, because I actually send them to Alex and Alan in Nexus magazine. But in Australia, you can get it direct from me and signed. But I don't send overseas. It costs too much. So you need to look at Amazon if it's anywhere else.
Amazon. Okay, for anyone to get hold of that. But as Karen said, Chris will put everything up on our page, all the links to Mary. Mary, it's on this point, I could chat forever to you. I'm so sure, Karen. We don't want to stop, Mary.
I've got another question.
And then I'm going, we can't do this. It's nighttime in Australia. Thank you for sharing this information with us. And I really hope you realize the value you have contributed to humanity. And And me being an oldie and all scared to fill in that questionnaire, you know, and then I'm here now with amazing Mary Rodwell, who has always been answering my questions. It just wasn't the time. It wasn't the time. And on behalf of our audience, thank you for sharing your wisdom, you know, your knowledge, your discernment, and I would say your perception, your perspective, because I think we all need to listen to others and their take on reality, because when we do that, we find we shift together the same language, the same reality, and I think that will shift more so to the what we call the new earth or the new dimension. And thank you so much indeed. Extremely grateful for today, my lovely. And on that note, Karen, would you please put Mary into the naughty room? And I'm just going to do next week's announcement. Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And
oh my gosh, thank you. Oh my Lord, I've got so many questions, Karen. Have you? I'm like,
yeah.
You know,
it's made me more conscious of different things that we are being sort of influenced in a certain way, but in a almost subconscious kind of way.
Well, if you can get into my group, I've got to say it, if you can get into my group. But what Mary's just spoke about, activation, just watching us, even in a replay, there's an activation going on. It's all about activation. Next Sunday, we have returning, Dee Lightcodes was with us on the 13th of March, where she shared her spiritual awakening and introduced the audience to the light codes and the light language. And she told her journey, her spiritual journey into sacred geometry. However, she's coming back next Sunday. We will be streaming live via Zoom, because Dee is going to do a short portal activation meditation with the codes. So I would do like what Mary's just said. I will give you a disclaimer. If you come on to Chris and Gloria's live chat show next Sunday, this is the disclaimer. If you do not wish to be activated, if you do not wish to wake up to who you truly are, and you want to stay in the low density 3D human experience that you agreed to do, you're most welcome to stay there. Do not come on our show. Because if you come on our show next Sunday, what is going to happen is you will be activated. So it's on that note, Karen Shearer, it's been a joy working with you for the first time.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. And I think I might make Chris a few more appointments on a Sunday. So
I think you need to make Chris a few more appointments. You know, girl power, as they say, and Kim to do the shopping on a Sunday now, you know. And you were amazing. It's been amazing.
I was just going to point out then, for one moment, we had 11 viewers and 11 likes and hearts at the same time. So we had 11.
At one point there was 11. It's all synchronistic. So on that note, Karen, I've got to do the banter, what me and Chris normally do, because we're just mad. So it's good night from her.
And it's good night from me.
From her. You're learning. Okay, thank you, everybody. And we'll see you next Sunday with D Light Codes. Thank you for joining us. Bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye. Bye.